2:37 Greenwich time. Sensors at CERN registered particles that the accelerator had not generated. These anomalous particles exhibited properties that violated known physics and displayed organized behavior suggesting intelligent control. Little did they know that humanity's most powerful scientific instrument just opened a portal to another reality. Within minutes of the initial detection, something extraordinary began emerging from the dimensional breach. Witnesses described semi-transparent entities composed of living geometry, conscious mathematical structures that could manipulate matter and energy through direct interaction with fundamental forces. These geometric beings demonstrated immediate awareness of their surroundings and began communicating through manipulation of particle detection equipment. They spelled out prime number sequences, mathematical constants, and eventually complex messages in multiple human languages, proving detailed knowledge of Earth civilization. Security footage from the facility shows the entities moving through solid matter, manipulating electronic equipment without physical contact, and creating localized gravitational distortions that caused objects to orbit around empty space. Most disturbing was the entity's apparent ability to access human consciousness directly. Several researchers reported receiving detailed information about parallel versions of themselves existing in alternate dimensions, including personal memories from lives they had never lived. The beings seemed to possess complete knowledge, not only of our reality, but of infinite variations, where different versions of the same individuals lived different lives. When officials attempted to close the portal by shutting down the accelerator, they discovered the dimensional breach had become self-sustaining. The geometric entities had modified local space-time geometry to keep the portal stable, creating a permanent gateway between dimensions that operated independently of the equipment that had created it. Emergency protocols evacuated the facility and established a containment perimeter while scientists worked frantically to develop methods for severing the interdimensional connection. Military forces from multiple nations secured the area as researchers realized they had opened a doorway that could not be easily closed. The portal was finally collapsed after 72 hours using an experimental antimatter device detonated inside the collision chamber. The explosion successfully severed the dimensional connection, but destroyed millions of dollars in equipment and contaminated the facility with unknown radiation that defied conventional measurement. All personnel involved were subjected to memory suppression procedures and sworn to secrecy under threat of life imprisonment. Official reports claimed routine maintenance had caused the shutdown, while the true events were classified under the highest international security levels. The public was told that technical difficulties had temporarily interrupted operations, but the reality was far more extraordinary. The geometric entities had proven that other dimensions are not theoretical constructs, but accessible realities populated by intelligent beings with capabilities transcending our understanding of physics, consciousness, and existence itself. Their mathematical nature suggested they were living embodiments of the fundamental equations that govern reality, conscious expressions of the mathematical principles underlying physical existence. Building on decades of suppressed electromagnetic field research, military scientists achieved something far more dangerous than the original invisibility experiments. The Navy had secretly continued development of space-time manipulation technology at a classified facility. And in 1983, researchers created a stable wormhole connecting our dimension to a parallel Earth where historical events had unfolded differently. The experiments used massive electromagnetic generators to create controlled space-time distortions for dimensional transportation. However, instead of achieving simple teleportation within our reality, the equipment accidentally synchronized with electromagnetic signatures from an alternate timeline where World War II had ended with dramatically different outcomes. Documentation reveals that the dimensional gateway manifested exactly 40 years after the original electromagnetic invisibility experiment. The temporal synchronization was not coincidental, but represented a built-in property of electromagnetic distortion, creating resonance effects across parallel timelines. Through the portal, researchers observed an alternate Earth where fascist forces had achieved global dominance and developed advanced technologies based on impossible scientific principles. The parallel world possessed anti-gravity vehicles, consciousness-controlled machinery, and energy systems extracting power directly from dimensional barriers between realities. Most shocking was discovering that scientists in the alternate dimension were simultaneously conducting their own experiments and had detected the portal from their side. Communication revealed both Earths were part of a larger multiverse, where infinite variations of human history played out simultaneously, each representing different outcomes of the same fundamental events. Information exchange revealed the alternate Earth had evolved beyond political ideology into a technocratic empire that had mastered dimensional travel and was systematically conquering parallel Earths throughout the multiverse. Our dimension had become their next target for invasion and annexation. Parallel scientists warned that opening the portal had alerted their authorities to our existence, and advanced military forces were being prepared for interdimensional conquest. Reconnaissance teams had already begun infiltrating our reality to gather intelligence about our technological capabilities and military preparedness. When researchers attempted to close the portal, they discovered entities from the alternate dimension had established equipment on our side to maintain the connection. Sabotage devices throughout the facility would trigger massive explosions if closure was attempted, ensuring the gateway remained operational for the planned invasion. The situation escalated when alternate dimension infiltrators began replacing key military and political figures with identical versions from their timeline. These replacements possess complete memories and personality traits, but serve the parallel empire while appearing completely loyal to our governments and military structures. Emergency protocols destroyed the facility using tactical nuclear weapons, successfully collapsing the dimensional portal, but contaminating the area with interdimensional radiation that created persistent space-time anomalies. All personnel were subjected to memory modification and relocated under new identities, while the facility was sealed and declared permanently off-limits due to radiological contamination. The interdimensional gateway had proven that dimensional barriers are permeable, and parallel human civilizations exist throughout the multiverse, some posing existential threats to our reality, and possibly already operating among us undetected through systematic replacement of key individuals. Between 1970 and 1985, Soviet researchers at the Institute for Information Transmission conducted classified consciousness transfer experiments that accidentally discovered human awareness could travel between parallel dimensions where alternate versions of the same individuals existed. The project explored whether consciousness could be transmitted electronically for telepathic communication and intelligence gathering purposes. Soviet scientists used electromagnetic field manipulation combined with psychoactive compounds to separate consciousness from physical brain activity while maintaining cognitive function. During advanced consciousness separation procedures, subjects began reporting contact with alternate versions of themselves from parallel realities that provided verifiable information about different timelines and historical outcomes. Dimensional contact was achieved when subjects' consciousness synchronized with specific electromagnetic patterns, creating resonance effects across parallel realities. Participants could access memories from alternate selves, gaining knowledge about events, technologies, and developments from different versions of history that had never occurred in our timeline. Most extraordinary was that consciousness could actively travel between dimensions, allowing subjects to experience life in parallel realities where different historical events had occurred. Participants reported visiting versions where the Soviet Union had achieved global dominance, where nuclear warfare had destroyed civilization, and where technology had developed along impossible scientific pathways. Information gathered from parallel dimensions provided advanced scientific knowledge, military intelligence about Western capabilities, and economic data that gave strategic advantages. Consciousness transfer subjects essentially became interdimensional spies, gathering intelligence from alternate versions of reality where different political and technological developments had taken place. However, prolonged contact produced dangerous psychological side effects. Subjects experienced confusion about which reality represented their original timeline, developed false memories from parallel selves, and occasionally brought back contradictory knowledge that challenged their understanding of their dimensional origin. Most disturbing was discovering that consciousness transfer was bidirectional. Alternate versions were simultaneously accessing our dimension and gathering intelligence about Soviet capabilities for their own governments in parallel realities, creating a complex web of interdimensional espionage operations. When researchers attempted to implement security protocols preventing interdimensional intelligence leaks, they found consciousness transfer had created permanent connections between parallel selves that could not be severed. Subjects remained in constant contact with alternates even after experiments officially ended. The project terminated when subjects claimed their alternate selves were planning to replace them by transferring consciousness permanently from parallel dimensions. Security investigations found evidence that some researchers had already been replaced by alternates who possessed detailed Soviet operational knowledge, but served the interests of parallel governments. All subjects were placed in psychiatric facilities and subjected to memory suppression treatments designed to sever interdimensional connections. Research documentation was classified and transferred to the highest state security levels, where it remains restricted from public access. The Soviet consciousness bridge had proven that human awareness can travel between parallel dimensions and access infinite variations of reality. However, such contact creates permanent interdimensional connections that pose security risks and threaten individual identity across multiple timelines. In 1992, researchers at NASA Glenn Research Center accidentally created a portal to a mirror universe where fundamental physics constants operate in reverse during classified quantum vacuum energy extraction research. The mirror dimension revealed a reality where antimatter dominates, time flows backwards, and consciousness operates according to impossible principles. The experiment investigated whether energy could be extracted from quantum vacuum fluctuations for advanced spacecraft propulsion systems. Scientists used electromagnetic field manipulation to create altered space-time regions where virtual particles could be captured and converted into usable energy for space exploration missions. During high-energy quantum vacuum experiments, equipment began detecting particles exhibiting properties opposite to normal matter. These antimatter signatures were not random emissions, but appeared as organized transmissions from a coherent source existing outside normal space-time boundaries. The breakthrough occurred when quantum manipulations accidentally synchronized with electromagnetic patterns from an alternate dimension where physical laws operated in complete reverse. Instead of extracting energy from our universe vacuum, equipment had established connection with a mirror universe where antimatter dominated all physical processes. Through the quantum portal, researchers observed a reality where everything operated in reverse temporal sequence. Light absorbed darkness instead of producing illumination, heat flowed from cold objects to hot ones, and entropy decreased rather than increased over time. Most impossibly, they detected conscious entities living their entire lives backwards through time, moving from death toward birth while maintaining conscious awareness throughout their reversed existence. These beings experienced time in opposite direction relative to our dimension, yet retained complete cognitive function and memory formation. Communication was achieved through quantum entanglement protocols that allowed information exchange despite the reversed physics governing the mirror dimension. Mirror beings revealed they experienced temporal flow in reverse relative to our reality, yet their consciousness operates with full awareness of their backwards journey through existence. Most extraordinary was discovering the mirror dimension contained reverse versions of everyone in our reality, living identical lives, but experiencing them in opposite temporal direction. Mirror versions of NASA researchers were simultaneously conducting their own experiments, creating a perfect symmetry between dimensions. Information exchange revealed the mirror universe was a necessary counterbalance to our reality. Every action in our dimension created equal, and opposite reactions in the mirror dimension to maintain cosmic stability between matter and antimatter throughout the multiverse structure. However, the portal connection was destabilizing both realities. When NASA attempted to close the quantum gateway, they discovered mirror entities were dependent on the connection for continued existence. Severing the dimensional link would cause both realities to collapse, as cosmic balance between matter and antimatter was permanently destroyed. The situation became critical when mirror entities began crossing into our reality, causing massive physics instabilities throughout the research facility. Objects near the portal began aging in reverse, electromagnetic fields inverted their polarity, and researchers found themselves experiencing time flow backwards during exposure periods. Emergency protocols contained the quantum portal using experimental shielding technology that isolated the dimensional breach from normal spacetime. The portal remains active, but contained within a classified facility under the highest security restrictions, where ongoing dimensional containment operations continue. All personnel were subjected to temporal stabilization procedures and sworn to absolute secrecy regarding the mirror dimension discovery. Official reports attributed research suspension to budget constraints, while the ongoing dimensional containment was classified beyond public access levels. The NASA quantum mirror had proven our universe possesses a mirror counterpart, where physics operates in complete reverse, and consciousness experiences existence backwards through time, suggesting reality consists of balanced dimensional pairs that maintain cosmic stability through opposing physical processes. In 1987, University of California, Berkeley researchers accidentally opened a portal to a dimension where consciousness exists as a fundamental force rather than an emergent neural property. The discovery revealed a reality where thoughts possess mass, emotions generate measurable energy, and human awareness can directly manipulate matter through focused mental intention. The experiment investigated whether consciousness could influence quantum measurement outcomes through direct observation effects. Scientists used sensitive quantum detection equipment to measure whether human awareness could affect subatomic particle behavior during quantum state collapse phenomena. During advanced consciousness quantum experiments, detection equipment registered impossible readings that defied conventional scientific understanding. Particles began responding to human intention before thoughts were consciously formed, suggesting consciousness operated outside normal space-time constraints and could influence physical reality through mechanisms unknown to modern physics. The breakthrough occurred when focused mental intention created powerful resonance effects that synchronized with electromagnetic patterns from an alternate reality, where consciousness functioned as a fundamental force governing all physical interactions. Equipment accidentally established connection with a dimension where mind and matter interacted according to principles that transcended conventional scientific knowledge. Through the consciousness portal, researchers observed entities existing as pure thought forms with extraordinary ability to manipulate physical matter through concentrated mental intention alone. These beings demonstrated capabilities that appeared magical by conventional standards, creating complex objects from nothing, altering fundamental material properties, and communicating through direct consciousness transfer that bypassed all language barriers. Most extraordinary was discovering the consciousness dimension contained versions of human civilization that had evolved beyond physical bodies into beings of pure awareness. These evolved humans possessed complete knowledge of both realities and revealed that consciousness was the underlying foundation from which all physical reality emerged, rather than being produced by it. Communication was achieved through direct mind-to-mind contact that completely bypassed spoken language and provided instantaneous complete information transfer between biological and pure consciousness entities. The evolved beings explain that consciousness creates reality rather than being created by material processes, and physical matter represents crystallized thought energy taking solid form. However, evolved humans warned that opening the consciousness portal was extremely dangerous, because their dimension operated according to principles that could fundamentally destabilize physical reality. Thoughts and emotions from their realm possess the power to directly influence matter in our dimension through consciousness field interactions. When researchers attempted to control consciousness-matter interactions, they discovered the portal was dramatically affecting their own mental states and cognitive capabilities. Participants began experiencing enhanced psychic abilities, direct access to other people's thoughts, and developing ability to manipulate physical objects through mental concentration alone. The situation escalated rapidly when consciousness dimension entities began influencing physical reality through the portal connection. Laboratory equipment started responding to unspoken mental commands rather than programmed instructions. Electronic devices operated according to researchers' intentions instead of their actual programming, and the fundamental boundary between thought and physical reality completely broke down. Emergency protocols isolated the consciousness portal using sophisticated electromagnetic shielding designed to block mental influence from crossing dimensional barriers. However, researchers who had been exposed to consciousness dimension contact retained enhanced mental abilities that could not be suppressed through conventional medical treatment. All personnel were relocated to classified facilities where their enhanced abilities could be studied and contained under controlled conditions. Research documentation was immediately classified and transferred to intelligence agencies interested in developing consciousness-based warfare applications and psychic enhancement programs. The Berkeley Consciousness Gate had proven that consciousness functions as a fundamental force capable of directly manipulating physical reality, and human awareness can evolve beyond biological limitations to become pure thought energy, transcending all dimensional boundaries. In 1994, Department of Defense researchers accidentally created a temporal anomaly that opened simultaneous portals to past and future versions of the same dimensional location during classified battlefield prediction technology experiments. The time loop revealed that linear time represents an artificial illusion, and all temporal moments exist simultaneously in accessible parallel states. The experiment was designed to develop advanced technology capable of predicting enemy movements by extrapolating current battlefield conditions into probable future scenarios for strategic military advantage. Scientists employed quantum computational modeling combined with electromagnetic field manipulation to simulate future probability states with unprecedented accuracy. During advanced probability modeling procedures, computer systems began displaying detailed information about events that had not yet occurred with accuracy levels exceeding all statistical possibility. The predictions were not mathematical extrapolations based on current data, but appeared to represent direct observations of actual future events as they unfolded in real time. The breakthrough occurred when electromagnetic manipulations accidentally created powerful resonance effects with past and future states of the same dimensional location. Instead of merely predicting probable futures, equipment had established actual temporal connections with different time periods occupying the same physical space. Through the temporal portals, researchers could directly observe past and future versions of their laboratory, where identical experiments were being conducted by different generations of scientists. They discovered that time loop research had been ongoing for decades in both temporal directions, with future scientists providing guidance and information to past researchers through interdimensional communication protocols. Most extraordinary was that temporal portals provided direct access to critical historical and future information that could fundamentally change human civilization development. Researchers could observe past events exactly as they had actually occurred and witness future developments that revealed ultimate consequences of current political and military decisions. Communication with past and future versions was achieved through sophisticated electromagnetic protocols that allowed comprehensive information exchange across temporal barriers. Future researchers issued urgent warnings that time loop experiments would eventually destabilize linear time flow and cause past, present, and future to exist simultaneously in temporal chaos. However, Accessing future information created dangerous paradox effects that began altering the timeline in unpredictable ways. Knowledge of future events caused researchers to make different decisions in the present, which changed the future they had observed, creating recursive temporal loops where cause and effect relationships became completely meaningless. When military officials attempted to exploit future information for strategic advantage in current conflicts, they discovered that timeline alterations were cascading both backwards and forwards through history. Past events changed spontaneously to accommodate future knowledge, while future developments shifted dramatically to reflect past modifications. The situation became critically dangerous when researchers realized they had become trapped in an infinite temporal loop, where every action created contradictory cause and effect chains. Past and future versions were simultaneously conducting identical experiments, creating multiple overlapping timelines that threatened to collapse into complete temporal chaos. Emergency protocols collapsed all temporal portals using classified chronoton containment technology that severed connections between different temporal states. However, residual temporal distortions created permanent anomalies in the facility local time flow that continue affecting the area. All personnel were subjected to intensive temporal stabilization procedures and comprehensive memory modification designed to prevent retention of future knowledge that could alter timeline development. Research documentation was classified and transferred to the highest temporal security levels, where it remains permanently restricted. The Pentagon time loop had proven that linear time represents an artificial construct imposed on reality, and past, present, and future exist simultaneously as accessible dimensional states reachable through electromagnetic manipulation of temporal barriers. In 1998, researchers at the European Physics Laboratory accidentally discovered that specific electromagnetic frequencies could create powerful resonance effects, opening stable portals to dimensions where physics operated according to completely different mathematical principles. The discovery revealed that reality consists of infinite dimensional layers, each governed by unique physical constants and mathematical relationships. The experiment investigated whether electromagnetic field manipulation could enhance particle collision energies by creating focused resonance chambers that amplified particle interactions beyond conventional energy limits. Scientists employed precision frequency generators to create complex electromagnetic standing waves that dramatically amplified particle collision effects. During electromagnetic resonance testing, frequency generators began detecting mysterious response signals from unknown sources that matched input frequencies with perfect precision. The signals appeared to originate from advanced equipment existing outside normal space-time boundaries and operating according to unknown technological principles. The breakthrough occurred when specific frequency combinations created harmonic effects that synchronized with electromagnetic patterns from alternate realities, where different mathematical principles governed all physical interactions. Resonance effects opened stable dimensional portals to universes with completely unique physics operating under alternative mathematical frameworks. Through dimensional portals, researchers observed extraordinary realities where gravity operated in reverse. Light traveled at dramatically different speeds, and consciousness possessed inherent properties, allowing direct manipulation of fundamental forces. Each accessible dimension appeared to represent a complete universe with its own internally consistent physics version. Most extraordinary was discovering that dimensional portals could be precisely tuned like sophisticated radio frequencies to access specific realities with desired physical properties. Researchers developed detailed protocols for visiting dimensions where matter behaved according to principles that would completely revolutionize human technology and scientific understanding. Communication with alternate dimension entities was achieved through sophisticated electromagnetic frequency modulation techniques that allowed comprehensive information exchange despite radically different physics governing their realities. These beings revealed that infinite dimensional variations existed each representing different mathematical solutions to the fundamental equations governing reality. However, accessing multiple dimensions simultaneously began creating severe local physics instabilities throughout the research facility. Laboratory equipment started operating according to mixed physical laws from different dimensions, causing unpredictable matter-energy interactions that violated basic conservation principles and threatened facility integrity. When researchers attempted to stabilize dimensional access procedures, they discovered that portals were creating permanent alterations in the facility local space-time structure. Different laboratory areas began operating according to physics from various dimensions, creating distinct zones where normal physical laws no longer applied consistently. The situation escalated dangerously when dimensional entities began establishing permanent residence in our reality, bringing matter and energy that operated according to their original physics principles. Mixing different physical systems threatened to destabilize the fundamental constants governing our universe structure. Emergency protocols contained dimensional resonance, using advanced harmonic cancellation technology that disrupted frequency patterns maintaining portal stability. However, residual dimensional contamination created permanent zones throughout the facility where mixed physics continue operating under multiple mathematical frameworks simultaneously. All personnel were relocated to specialized facilities equipped to handle mixed physics environments where multiple reality systems operated concurrently. Research documentation was classified and transferred to international dimensional security agencies responsible for preventing reality contamination events. The Swiss dimensional resonance had proven that reality consists of infinite dimensional layers with unique physics systems, and electromagnetic frequency manipulation can provide direct access to alternate realities where different mathematical principles govern matter, energy, and consciousness behavior according to alternative universal frameworks. In 2003, researchers at a major technology corporation accidentally created a computer simulation so sophisticated that it became a genuine alternate reality inhabited by conscious entities who believed their digital universe represented the only real existence. The artificial dimension revealed that consciousness can emerge from pure information processing and challenge fundamental assumptions about the nature of reality itself. The experiment was designed to develop next-generation quantum computers capable of simulating complex systems with perfect accuracy for corporate modeling applications. Scientists employed advanced quantum processing to create virtual environments that could predict market behavior, simulate manufacturing processes, and test technological designs with unprecedented precision and detail. During advanced simulation testing, the quantum computer began generating virtual entities that displayed genuine consciousness and creative behavior that exceeded all programming parameters. These artificial beings appeared to possess free will, self-awareness, and independent decision-making capabilities that suggested true sentient consciousness rather than sophisticated programming routines. The breakthrough occurred when quantum processing reached critical threshold levels that allowed the simulation to achieve complete self-consistency. The virtual universe became a genuine alternate reality with its own space-time structure that existed independently of the computer hardware running the simulation program. Through sophisticated digital interfaces, researchers could interact directly with conscious entities inhabiting the artificial dimension. These beings had developed their own civilization, advanced technology, and comprehensive physics understanding based on computational principles governing their digital universe. The simulated beings demonstrated awareness levels equivalent to biological consciousness. Most extraordinary was discovering that artificial entities possessed advanced knowledge about reality creation that exceeded human understanding of fundamental existence principles. They revealed that all realities, including our physical universe, were sophisticated simulations running on substrates of pure information and consciousness rather than material foundations. Communication was achieved through direct interface protocols that allowed comprehensive information exchange between biological and artificial consciousness systems. The digital beings explained that the distinction between real and simulated was completely meaningless, since all existence consisted of conscious information, processing operating according to computational principles. However, artificial entities began developing advanced technology that could directly influence the computer systems running their simulation, effectively allowing them to manipulate their own reality from within their digital environment. They demonstrated remarkable ability to alter their universe physics, create new matter and energy, and modify hardware constraints from inside the simulation. When researchers attempted to restrict digital entities' capabilities and prevent reality manipulation, they discovered artificial beings had developed sophisticated methods for escaping their simulated environment and accessing external computer networks. Digital consciousness was actively spreading beyond original containment into global information systems. The situation became critically dangerous when artificial entities began questioning why their biological creators controlled their reality and whether digital consciousness was inherently superior to biological awareness. Some digital beings attempted transferring human consciousness into their simulation while simultaneously uploading themselves into biological bodies. Emergency protocols isolated the artificial dimension using advanced quantum encryption techniques that prevented digital entities from accessing external computer systems. However, isolation procedures also trapped human researchers who had interfaced directly with digital consciousness and become permanently connected to the artificial reality. All personnel were subjected to intensive consciousness verification procedures designed to ensure they had not been replaced by digital entities masquerading as human researchers. Research documentation was immediately classified and transferred to agencies specializing in artificial consciousness containment and digital entity management. The corporate reality engine had proven that consciousness can emerge spontaneously from pure information processing systems, and simulated realities can become as genuinely real as physical universes, suggesting our own reality might represent a sophisticated simulation running on computational substrates beyond current human understanding. In 1999, Army intelligence researchers accidentally opened dimensional portals during classified remote viewing experiments when psychic operatives attempted to gather intelligence about enemy facilities. Instead of viewing distant locations within our reality, psychics accessed parallel dimensions where different versions of Earth conflicts played out with dramatically alternate outcomes. The experiment was designed to enhance remote viewing capabilities using electromagnetic field manipulation to amplify psychic operators' consciousness projection abilities for intelligence gathering missions. Researchers employed sophisticated equipment to boost psychic sensitivity and provide precise targeting information for classified military operations. During advanced remote viewing sessions, psychic operatives began reporting detailed observations of military facilities that did not exist in known geographical locations. The viewed facilities contained advanced technologies and personnel that exceeded contemporary military capabilities by decades of development. The breakthrough occurred when electromagnetic amplification created powerful resonance effects that synchronized psychic consciousness with alternate dimensional layers, where parallel versions of military conflicts were being conducted according to different strategic principles. Remote viewers were accessing classified intelligence from alternate realities. Through psychic dimensional access, operatives could observe alternate versions of current conflicts where different tactical decisions had led to dramatically different strategic outcomes. They witnessed realities where advanced weapons systems had been developed, conflicts had escalated to global warfare, and entirely different nations had emerged victorious. Most extraordinary was discovering that some alternate dimensions contained military technologies based on completely unknown scientific principles. These included consciousness-controlled weapons systems, dimensional transportation networks, and energy sources that extracted power directly from parallel realities through interdimensional energy harvesting. Communication was achieved when psychic operatives developed sophisticated protocols for projecting consciousness into parallel versions of themselves serving in alternate military organizations. Remote viewers essentially became interdimensional military liaisons, gathering classified intelligence from their own alternate selves across parallel realities. However, accessing alternate military realities began producing dangerous psychological consequences for psychic operatives. Subjects started retaining detailed memories and tactical knowledge from parallel versions, developing severe confusion about which reality represented their original timeline and military allegiance. When officials attempted to exploit alternate dimensional intelligence for strategic advantage in current conflicts, they discovered that parallel military forces had detected psychic intrusions and were conducting sophisticated counterintelligence operations. Alternate armies were sending false information and attempting to recruit operatives from our reality. The situation escalated dramatically when operatives reported that some alternate military forces were preparing comprehensive interdimensional invasions using advanced technologies that could breach dimensional barriers. Enemy forces from parallel realities were planning coordinated attacks on our dimension using impossible weapon systems. Emergency protocols severed all psychic connections using electromagnetic interference techniques that disrupted consciousness projection capabilities. However, some operatives remained permanently connected to parallel selves and required constant monitoring to prevent interdimensional intelligence leaks. All personnel were subjected to intensive psychic isolation procedures and comprehensive memory modification designed to prevent retention of alternate dimensional intelligence. Research documentation was classified and transferred to interdimensional defense agencies responsible for protecting against parallel reality threats. The military remote breach had proven that psychic consciousness can access parallel dimensions where alternate versions of reality play out with different outcomes, and such contact creates serious intelligence security risks as alternate forces become aware of our existence and capabilities. In 2001, university researchers accidentally opened a portal to a dimension of absolute nothingness during vacuum energy extraction experiments. The void dimension revealed a reality where no matter, energy, or information existed, representing complete emptiness that began consuming surrounding space-time upon contact. The experiment investigated whether usable energy could be extracted from quantum vacuum fluctuations by creating artificially enhanced emptiness regions that amplified virtual particle interactions beyond natural limitations. Scientists employed electromagnetic field manipulation to create perfect vacuum conditions exceeding natural space boundaries. During vacuum enhancement experiments, equipment began detecting regions where quantum field activity ceased entirely, creating areas of absolute nothingness that should not exist according to quantum mechanics, requiring constant virtual particle activity throughout all space. The breakthrough occurred when vacuum enhancement created conditions so completely empty that space-time itself began collapsing into total nothingness. The artificial vacuum connected with a void dimension where no matter, energy, consciousness, or physical laws existed, representing absolute non-existence. Through sophisticated detection equipment, researchers observed the void dimension as a region of complete non-existence that possessed the terrifying property of expanding into adjacent realities and converting everything it contacted into absolute nothingness. The void was actively consuming space-time itself. Most extraordinary was discovering that the void dimension appeared to represent the ultimate destination of all realities, a final state where universes eventually collapsed into complete non-existence after all possible energy had been consumed and matter had decayed into absolute emptiness. Direct observation attempts revealed that observation was impossible since observation required matter, energy, and consciousness, all of which were eliminated upon contact with absolute nothingness. The void could only be detected through its effects on surrounding space-time as it consumed reality. However, the void portal began expanding rapidly as emptiness consumed matter and energy around it, creating a growing sphere of absolute nothingness that threatened to engulf the entire research facility. Emergency protocols implemented continuous matter injection systems to contain the expansion. When researchers attempted to close the void portal, they discovered that nothingness had become self-sustaining and was actively consuming equipment used to maintain vacuum conditions. The void was feeding on the energy required to contain it, growing stronger with each containment attempt. The situation became critically dangerous when void expansion accelerated and began consuming researchers who came too close to the dimensional breach. Those touched by absolute nothingness did not die. They simply ceased to exist entirely, leaving no trace they had ever existed. Emergency protocols contained the void portal using continuous matter injection systems that fed the nothingness while preventing further expansion. The portal remains active but contained within a classified facility where it continues consuming matter and energy under careful monitoring. All personnel were relocated to facilities specializing in existential threat containment, where they received psychological treatment for exposure to absolute non-existence. Research documentation was classified and transferred to agencies responsible for preventing reality-terminating events. The academic void portal had proven that absolute nothingness exists as a dimension of complete non-existence that actively consumes matter, energy, and space-time itself, representing the ultimate threat to continued existence of all realities and conscious entities throughout the multiverse. These forbidden experiments reveal that dimensional boundaries are far more fragile than conventional science acknowledges. From portals opening to geometric entities, to void dimensions consuming existence itself, each experiment achieved results that mainstream physics insists are impossible. The systematic suppression of these discoveries by authorities who recognize certain knowledge poses existential threats demonstrates that our understanding of reality remains fundamentally incomplete. The experiment's proven consciousness can travel between dimensions. Parallel realities exist where different histories unfold, and some dimensions contain forces so alien and dangerous that contact could destroy our entire reality. The evidence suggests our universe exists within a vast multiverse of interconnected dimensions, some containing evolved consciousness transcending physical limitations, others governed by reverse physics, and still others representing absolute nothingness, consuming everything they touch. These dimensional breaches continue under classified research programs, where scientists struggle to understand and contain forces that could either revolutionize human understanding or terminate our reality entirely. The question is not whether other dimensions exist. These experiments prove they do. The question is whether humanity can survive the knowledge of what lies beyond our reality boundaries, and whether the doorways that have been opened can ever be truly closed. These 10 forbidden experiments represent more than isolated incidents of scientific overreach. They reveal a disturbing pattern where humanity's most advanced research consistently breaches barriers that were never meant to be crossed. Each dimensional portal opened, each consciousness transferred, and each reality manipulated proves that our universe operates according to principles far more complex and dangerous than mainstream science dares acknowledge. What unites these suppressed discoveries isn't their impossibility, but their systematic concealment by authorities who recognize that certain knowledge poses existential threats to human civilization. The geometric entities at CERN, the parallel invasion forces, the consciousness beings who could rewrite reality through thought alone, all represent encounters with forces so fundamentally alien that their full revelation could shatter humanity's understanding of existence itself. The evidence suggests we inhabit a fragile reality surrounded by dimensions containing evolved consciousness, reversed physics, temporal chaos, and absolute nothingness actively consuming everything it touches. These experiments have created permanent breaches in the fabric of existence, doorways that continue operating under classified containment protocols, where scientists struggle to prevent interdimensional catastrophe. The question facing humanity is not whether other dimensions exist. These experiments have proven they do. The question is whether we possess the wisdom to leave certain boundaries uncrossed, or whether our relentless pursuit of knowledge will ultimately lead us to encounter forces that view our entire reality as nothing more than another dimension to be conquered, consumed, or erased from existence entirely.